not to talk a lot, but is to help you all talk a lot. As you will have discovered, the configuration of seating in the room is largely a round table. We are trying to encourage that spirit of communication. This is a round table. This is not a lecture. This is not any one particular person telling you how it is. So we encourage everyone to engage and be with us, be present, and join in this community. So there has been a trend of people describing themselves to those who can't see. I don't think anyone really cares what I'm wearing. So instead, I would describe myself as a food so that everyone could experience that. If I were a food, what food would I be? And no one say vanilla ice cream, because that's just mean. Probably some kind of a blend, a salad with ingredients from all over. Very interesting and surprising. There you go. That's me as a food. All right, enough about that. Today we're here to talk about education for learners with all kinds of challenges, especially with disabilities. And the way this roundtable session is going to be structured, we can describe with our hands. So I want you to experience the flow before we do it. All right? I want you all to raise both of your hands and clench your fists very tightly. Angry, 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 right? Now open your hands and lift them to the sky. And now shake the hands of the person beside you. All right. So this is how we're going to do. We're going to start angry. We're going to start with those clenched fists and vent. But then we're not going to stop there. We're going to open our hands and see some solutions and learn about the light at the end of the tunnel and the many good things that are possible. And then we're going to realize that we're not done yet. And so hopefully by the end of this, we will end up shaking hands and being part of a community, right? Joining in, all of us from all different places, coming together, moving forward in the next year or years as this challenge continues, but as we have some hope for moving the ball forward, as we say. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is roundtable. We're going to hear from you with some challenges related to education with and for learners with disabilities. So I'm going to run around with the microphone, and you're going to raise your hands and just briefly tell me, what is a challenge? What is something difficult? What is a pain point? And then we're going to spend some time on that, and then we're going to hear from the folks that are up front here as panelists. They're going to very briefly, within 4 minutes, just describe their piece of the puzzle. What is their organization in a nutshell, in an elevator pitch? What is it that they do to help education for people with disabilities? And then we'll have a discussion, and we'll see where we are. Our goal is it's now 12:25. We're about an hour and a half behind, okay? I realize that we stand between you and lunch. So our hope is that I have gotten special permission, because I know a guy, to go a little bit late. I think we're going to go to about 1:30, okay? So that'll give us about an hour and still plenty of time to get into the lunch. Sao sao? All good? Okay, those are the 2 words that I know in Swahili. All right. Who would like to start us off? Oh, hands flying. All right, I'm going to start over here. And remember, briefly tell us something that gives you heartburn, something that is a challenge, something that is a problem for learners with disabilities. But tell us what country you come from. Okay, and then we'll get going. Here we go, here we go.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacqueline Lidonde and I come from USIU Africa in Kenya, a university. I think one of the challenges for us is technology for the students to be able to learn in different aspects, so especially the ones with complex disabilities.
Perfect. Technology. All right, coming around here, and thank you for being so concise.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Irene Golo, and I'm from Kenya, Cheshire Disability Services Kenya. And one of the things that I've noted, even as implementers of inclusive education in Kenya, and is policy incorporating learners with neurodiverse disabilities in inclusive education, where in most of the times they are left out, and that is not quality education for them as far as disability inclusion is concerned.
Thank you. So we heard technology, we heard policy, especially learners with neurodiversity.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Muriuki. I am from Kenya. I represent two organizations. One of them is an edtech company based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and one is an OPD. I'll keep it short. One of the major challenges that we face is adaptability in edtech, lack of adaptability in edtech solutions that is just not inclusive to learners with disabilities.
Thank you. Pass, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Phyllis Munyi from Dyslexia Organization Kenya. And my concern is how, as we talk about inclusivity in digital accessibility for people with disability, but you find people with learning difficulties and special needs and neurodiverse are not included. It is totally left out. So everybody is talking about inclusivity for people with disability, but what about those children who cannot read in class? How are they being supported digitally? Thank you.
All right, and thank you for being so brief. We're not done yet. We're coming around, and you just wave us down. Here we go.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ares Nyambura from Kenya. I come from Thika Technical Training Institute, that is a TVET institution. My challenge is I've realized that there's no departments or sections that caters for people with disabilities, such that if there's a budget allocation that is meant for that department, there is none for them. So the question comes, when there's any budget that one wants to do, the question is, where do you get money from? Thank you.
In a word, money. We'll come, yep, here we go. All right.
Thank you very much. My name, I'm called Damba Haruna from Uganda. So the greatest challenge I have is with AI. As we all know, it is meaningless to conduct research when you already know what the results would be. And so we have very many people are using ChatGPT to do their own research. And this has led to deterioration, in the quantity of research that we see from university graduates. And just building on the words, the famous word of Springer, who said, after the highest point is reached, decline begins. How are we going to be able to deal with this decline that AI has introduced into our educational system? Thank you.
Thank you. If I can summarize, several concerns related to artificial intelligence, to AI, and how it is used, and the challenges, probably its benefits, but also its downsides. Is that fair? So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Becky Sander. I'm a teacher in the university. My concern is that I personally feel that every time we have these conferences of inclusivity, it's like we are talking to ourselves. I'll say why. We do not have engineering students here. We do not have architecture students here. We do not have students in design. ICT students are not here because those are the students and the entrepreneurs who can be able to take whatever we are discussing here to the next level. So that is my concern, that is it possible to really include persons in these meetings who really do not know what we talk about, that they are hearing it for the first time, so that they are fired up to go out there and do what we desire to do, meaning that we need other people to do what we want to do. Thank you.
If I can summarize the concept of inclusive, we often, at a conference like this, talk about including all of the learners, but we also have to include all of the other stakeholders. So that's a broad message for sure. Okay, so you had a suggestion?
Yeah, my name is Roger Seronjoji from Uganda. My challenge that I'm seeing, all of us, we see primary and secondary school, there are so many innovations around bringing inclusivity. And then when you cross the university, there is a bit, but when it comes to the vocational section, like for example in Uganda, many students drop in primary and secondary. The only space they will be going to would be vocational institutions. But most of the institutions, they don't have inclusion into them. So that's my challenge. I would feel like investors should think about creating spaces into vocational spaces where many students with disability could have space to learn from.
Thank you, and I don't need to summarize that. Very well said. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Anil Jaggi from India. We are running an inclusive education program in India in northern city called Dehradun for the last 15 years. And right from the beginning until date, we are facing many challenges. Right? It is not only that school is facing the challenges, we are facing the challenges faced by the families, faced by the society, faced by the government, as well as other schools. So major challenge, if you allow me, I'll just tell that the first issue is the stigma, like acceptance by the parents that the child is having any kind of disability, especially in the case of, because you can see the physical disability, but it's very difficult to understand that intellectual disability at a later stage. So we are trying to figure out if we can have some kind of screening process using the assistive technology, AI tools like that. Though Government of India is also talking that every school should have a...
Just problems. Just problems. Tell us your problems.
Yeah. So, so screening is one, and inclusion, as I rightly mentioned, that the big schools, they don't entertain children with any kind of disability. And family issues, as I mentioned, financial obligation. The family, when I'm talking about family, that pair, especially the mother side, is also facing problem. Father are sometimes that relief from that issues. They go to the job, they go to the business, but mothers are always full-time caretaker of that. So the social and emotional issues with the mothers are much higher than that. So we are trying to figure out we can develop the ecosystem for that. And I'm here all the way from India to learn more from all of you, and would like to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So families need to be part of the discussion, and the public perceptions need to be part of the conversation. So there's lots of good nuggets there. All right, we have one here. Raise your hands. We'll come back. Yep. You want to come over here? All right, we'll come. Here you go. Here's a microphone. Yes.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monica. I'm from Sierra Leone. So when we talk on inclusive education, most time I think the challenges that has to start with drafting education policy. That is one challenge I find out that is not inclusive, and also having access to assistive technology for people, especially with visual impairment. Back in my country, it's really, really difficult. That is one reason why people with visual impairments most time drop out of schools more when they get to university or higher tertiary institutions, because they lack assistive devices that will aid them to go through their education.
Thank you. Thank you. A lack of devices, remembering all disabilities, including hearing impairment, and yeah, lots of issues. Oops, is it cane? I'm just going to move your cane.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kolemas Nyakundi. I come from Kiktanet, an ICT policy think tank. My challenges are two. The first one is usually the parallel legal frameworks that we usually see, that between disabled people and disabled people, why don't we have an inclusive policies that works for all? The other one is lack of seamless integration of assistive technologies between learners and the trainers, so that we don't have that breakage of information between learners and the trainers. You find that a trainer may be using Braille to teach, but learners don't have a device or something to decode that, and so forth, maybe from the learner to the trainer. So there's that breakage of information flow.
So an integrated, unified policy framework that is sort of universal rather than two separate sets of policies. That's true for education in many cases. And then the integration and the match between the trainers and the teachers and the students in terms of their technologies and expectations. Absolutely. Anybody over here? I'll come back. Think about it. I'm coming over there. You have a microphone, but no, this is my mic. There's only one microphone here. My mic. Now it's your mic.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Alice Chenjiwe Kabwe. I'm from Zambia. And I'll keep it brief, but one major challenge around inaccessible curricula and the gap between institutions and educators being able to have the capacity and the resources to provide individualized and or differentiated support.
Thank you. Definitely the resources in our university in America, the resources that the university has, nowhere near enough. Yes. Who else has a challenge? Are we done? Is that all the challenges? We've figured all the challenges? Not at all. Of course not. Here you go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Ebude from Cameroon. I have two challenges: lack of accessibility in my country, and this made me to stay in the house for some years without going to school. Another problem is, as a teacher, I teach in the hearing impaired school, and one of the challenges that my students face is lack of assisting device in technology. So I will plead with you people to tell me how to go about it and how to bring solution in my country and how to help these children. Thank you.
So general lack of accessibility, but also some specific challenges related to technologies and tools, perhaps. Yes, with the students, yep. With the hearing impaired? In your context, for sure, yep. Absolutely. No, my microphone, only one microphone. Don't be giving her a microphone. This is the special microphone. This is the community microphone.
Thanks, Bruce. My name is Eva. I work with the Action Foundation, and what I'd say is limited funding and resource allocation, especially towards disability or let's say inclusive education. It's often underfunded, grossly underfunded. And also the disability-specific programs, they usually compete with the other education programs. So this really makes it even more vulnerable. Like we cannot accomplish what we require, yet we require a lot more resources. So limited funding and resource allocation is not taken into consideration.
Money, 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 but not just money, but resources generally, and then allocation and teachers, absolutely. Oh, we have more, we have more. Everybody remind yourself, clench one fist, clench one fist.
Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Valerie Lesia from Kenya. I work for Enable. So my only concern is the cost of assistive technology, even when we really need to use it. The cost is too high, so you find for Biro pen, it's barely 20 bob if it's on the higher side, but for a Braille machine or a computer that has a software that is a screen reader, it's so expensive. So the common mwananchi, the Wanjiku in Kenya, cannot access that. And then another thing, in Kenya, the Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development prints out or embosses the Braille materials so late. It's 6 months or a year after the print books are in schools. So it becomes so hard for inclusive education to take place when even the books are not even available. Thank you.
Thank you. Resources. Oh, we're coming around for sure. I'm going to come through the middle here. Here you go.
Thank you. At least you're getting fit. Hi, everybody. Lana from South Africa, from an organization called Africa Tikkun. We look after about 20,000 beneficiaries and about 1,500 children with disabilities, which are inclusive. My challenge is I have tried to mainstream a lot of young ECD children into our ECD classrooms, but the teachers actually are hesitant to have these children in their classrooms and require, that's it, integrating them into the classrooms. The teachers require a class assistant. So I spend so much of my budget training class assistants and then having to pay for a class assistant in the classroom to help, because a class has about 40 children in it, and the teachers are not prepared to have these children in their classrooms unless there is a class assistant. So again, it becomes both a resource and a financial challenge. Thank you.
And also an availability of skilled labor, right? So people who have been trained in that role. Nice. Okay. And this is a challenge that we see when we have that integrated model as opposed to the school for the blind, school for the deaf, right? Those are different models, right? And this is an attempt to integrate, which is a different way of approaching things, but it brings its own challenges. Who has another challenge? Oh, there's more over here. And we're going to wrap up our fist clenching soon.
My name is Nancy, and I run a special needs center for children. But now what I've done, I've brought the caregivers to do social enterprise. So my challenge is the children and the caregivers are doing beadwork for economic empowerment, because eventually autism children, some of these special needs children, they end up having skills, hands-on skills. So my challenge, how do I incorporate IT to market their products? Because like the product they have, it's saturated in Kenya. But I'm looking for markets outside Kenya, but with a differentiation strategy. So my challenge is inclusivity, because these people are not mobile. So I'm the one to be the link between the people and the people. And I wouldn't say it's the economic problem of the funding, but the problem is the marketability of the items, and how do I get into the IT space to create awareness on that? Yeah.
So marketability awareness in the IT space for people with disabilities, for sure, absolutely. A couple more. I see one in the back. I'll get there. Any around here? All right, one right here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Esther Rije, and I'm from Kenya. I'm a legal practitioner. Another major challenge I see is in inaccessible learning environments, even in various buildings. There are physical barriers, such as there are no ramps in various buildings, even schools. And you also realize that the classes, for example, those who are in public schools, the classes were not designed to incorporate people or persons who are using assistive technology, such as wheelchair. You realize that the classes are so full. So infrastructure is an issue, especially in Africa. Yeah.
Physical access, certainly what we know in terms of ramps and things, but I would also suggest that infrastructure now means electricity plugs available at the desks or those kinds of things, right? So it's infrastructure more broadly imagined. All right, so we've got a couple more. I'm going to sneak through here, excuse me. And over here, you had a hand up, my friend. There you go, there's a microphone.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, and others. My name is Brian Enyimo. I serve at the Uganda Network on Law, Ethics, and HIV. One of the things that is really challenging is the knowledge gap in our human rights as people living with disabilities. That incriminates us in one way or the other. But then we're looking at there's a gap in the role of the judiciary in helping people with disabilities equally, enjoy those spaces. So if they can equally come to the table and try to reinforce these things to push education and everybody, I think their role will be known and it would be very relevant. Thank you.
So certainly educating people about school stuff is important, but also educating people about civic roles and rights and the law, and there's lots of different kinds of knowledge to be shared. Absolutely. And then advocacy from the judiciary and the legal process. One or two last ones. All right. So one last time, both hands in the air, fists clenched. There are lots of problems. Now release and shake those hands. Raise your hands to the sky. Okay, and relax. Okay. So that was our fist clench portion. Now we're going to talk about some solutions. Not all solutions, but you see that the challenges that were raised are in the legal domain, the resource domain, the money domain, the policy domain, right, all over. And we have a wonderful smorgasbord, to use the food method. A group of experts that bring ideas from all corners of this problem space. So they're going to share 2 or 3, 4 minutes about their work and how their piece of the puzzle fits into this overall landscape. And then after that, we'll come back to continue the discussion. So I'm going to start at the top with Zachary. Muyasia, you're going to have to say it. You're going to all introduce yourselves very, very briefly, but tell us, focus mostly on your work. But I'm going to butcher your name, so I'll let you do that. But Zachary is from Kise, so policy man.
Wow, good afternoon. I'm speaking from this direction for those of us who cannot see. You know, sometimes you may sit facing the speakers, not knowing that the person is right ahead of you. First, really pleased to being here and that we are talking, because when we stop talking, then we'll start fighting, right? Talking is the first solution to most of the challenges that we have. I'm really happy that Bruce had a thoughtful way of approaching this so that we can share the different challenges that we have or we feel that are in this sector, so that then we try to see the possible solutions. I work for Kenya Institute of Special Education. I'm coming in to represent my director, Dr. Norman Kiogora, and the entire board of council. So for those who may not have known of it, Kenya Institute of Special Education is an institute, is a semi-autonomous agency of government that is responsible for special education needs all around. Talk of training, talk of research, talk of functional assessment, talk of rehabilitation for those who acquire impairment, especially in their adulthood, talk of development and assembling of assistive devices and all those. So yes, I've listened to several of the challenges that we've shared. I also know and recognize that there are many others that we've not shared. And like Bruce mentioned, we are here to talk. So not all of us, not any of us may have solutions to everything that is happening. But then some of us may have some information of what is happening at a place that maybe you or someone else may not have gotten there. And so possibly we inform each other. You inform me, I inform you. And talking of that, I must also mention that some of the challenges that we are mentioning, or we have already mentioned, they are already in the pipeline of being solved. Like I mentioned, we are not here to just give solutions. We are here to talk, because you may know, I may know, but I don't know what you know, you don't know what I know. So maybe basically to only mention in shortest time before the 3 minutes I'm given are over, allow me ride on some of the challenges that we've already shared. Say, for example, someone mentioned about education for those who are unable to read. Yes, there is a challenge with that. And here we're talking about those people who may have challenges, talk of, say, dyslexia or dysgraphia. Dyslexia, where you're struggling with using your sight to be able to read the printed text. Dysgraphia, where you're struggling to be able to write, and now that becomes a problem. I remember sometime when I was in the college, because I wasn't able to use a pen and paper, they used to call me the illiterate graduate. Because literacy is defined as ability to read and write. So now I'm in the university, but I'm not able to read, nor am I able to write. So did I not qualify to being an illiterate person? Did I? Oh, is the room empty, Mr. Bruce? Did I qualify, did I not qualify to being an illiterate person if I'm not able to read or write? I did qualify, right? But then now, still I was in the university and graduated. So just that I read and write in a different mode. All of us came here, in different modes.
Go ahead, you have to wrap up.
Oh, all right. So basically, I'm saying this issue of dyslexia and dysgraphia, then that's when we are finding modes of learning being adapted to suit these people. So that then these people can use, say, assistive technology to be able to interpret, so that if it is in a room like this, instead of them writing, they can record. So that then if it is in terms of reading, they would be able to listen to what is spoken, so that they are able to also read. And with that, then we start with awareness so that people get to learn about what's dyslexia, what's dysgraphia. Then someone talked about the learner support assistance in class. Yes, after having discovered that challenge, the government through Kenya Institute of Special Education did roll out a certificate in learner support assistance, where someone comes and they are taught on how best to be a learner support assistant, so that then they are not ending up to becoming teacher assistant, but learner assistant. So they get to learn of different ways on how they may be able to support the learner in the process of learning. So there was something also mentioned about us talking to ourselves. Yes, that is common. However, that's why we have to keep shouting, to keep talking, and being able to, show up whenever activities or events like these are organized, so that then we may be able to be felt, be heard, and then be understood. But then, support for, I may not be able to just finish all of them, but there's some statement also about family being involved in the process of supporting persons with disabilities and other special needs in education. Having noticed that challenge too, the government is right now almost finalizing. By the way, you can visit the institute. It is around Kasarani, exit 8 on Thika Road. We are finalizing a construction of a parental center. The purpose of the parental center is to make sure that there are opportunity for parents and caregivers to come and be able to create support groups and have talks, so that then they would expand in terms of their awareness, so that then they would also be able to learn of the available solutions. And through that, then we'll tend to see fathers being present and not only mothers. Overall, we're also trying to make sure that we find caregivers. Just the other day, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we did have a collaboration with KRA, FXPESA, National Council of Persons with Disabilities, and others, trying to create awareness on financial literacy to make sure that caregivers would be able to have alternative means of having capital. Because a person who has a child who is, say, cerebral palsy for 10 years, then they are held. It's like being handcuffed for 10 years because they may not be able to concentrate at work, they may not be able to do many other things since they are there for their children, for therapies, for medical appointments, for functional assessment, and all that. So finding solutions for those caregivers to find themselves alternative ways of having financial literacy so that then they would be able to make ends meet. And with that, then it will make it easier for fathers to also be present, because most of the things that make them absent is when they're also trying to go look for some money to make sure that they also support their child with disability, considering that basically disability, managing disability and all that in terms of education, health and all that is costly. So that's why most of the times they find themselves out. And of course, through the parental awareness and financial literacy, we may end up seeing them present. So allow me to stop that there so that then I may give a chance to my boss, a great friend, Dr. Mugo, who gave me a chance also to participate in all this 10 years ago.
So we started with Kisei as the idea that the government of Kenya has been listening. These challenges have been around for a long time, and the government thinks about these things and is addressing many of these challenges. That's a piece of the puzzle. That's a moment of hope. Not all governments in all countries have that structure, and they don't all function the same. But this is a lot of rays of hope, I think, saying that the government, which is an expression of the people, is investing in the people. Thank you for all of that positive energy. So we're going to slide over to John Mugo.
Thank you so much, Bruce, and thank you, Zachary, even referring to me as your boss when I'm not. My name is John Mugo. I work as the Executive Director of Zizi Afrique Foundation. We do research, so we are academia who left the university to seek ways of applying research to policy and practice out here and bringing research to the people, basically. The one thing, Bruce, I realize is that when people are raising the challenges, that clenched fist, I wish I could take the microphone back to you for you now to tell us from where you sit, what is the one thing you can do about the challenge that you raised? And this, for me, is a challenge of inclusion. That is not about government out there, about other people out there, because everywhere I am, and every moment is an opportunity for inclusion. And so I learned about this when I was in the university, at Kenyatta University, studying as a music teacher. And so in 1995, some idea crossed my mind that I'm training to be a music teacher, and I can apply this music to inclusion. And so that was like an opening mind for me, and from that moment I've done many things, and wherever I am, I see many opportunities for inclusion. So I have behind me like 30 years of this, from being 10 years as a student, graduate student, 5 years as a lecturer where Becky is at Kenyatta University, including 2.5 years as the head of the special needs department at Kenyatta University when we started working with Bruce and Irene. And 5 years, as Zachary says, as a member of the KISE Council, and some years, I think 5 years, as the chair of the board of KISE. And also, at one moment, we established the Albinism Foundation of East Africa. In 2006, I was chair for 10 years, trying to push for policy on, how The creams can be zero rated with government, working with Dr. Choksi to provide, glasses, and so we have done many things, a lot of restlessness because you feel like you're pushing a wall. One thing that I can say I'm working on now as a solution, which is extremely frustrating. Some couple of years ago, the government of Kenya passed a policy called ACPO, so enhancing economic opportunities for persons with disabilities in the country, and even ring-fencing a percentage for government procurement to go to young people, women, and persons with disabilities. Now, I started a journey of trying to find out how, because you'd go to a government office in town. Down there, people with disabilities begging or, doing all manners of things, selling tropical sweets, which doesn't earn enough. And up in the building is a government department with a procurement floor that are not ticking their performance index every year because they have no suppliers with disabilities. So I started conversing with people with disabilities on why are you not walking up the building to seek procurement? Then I was able to record 7 bottlenecks. Why? That person begging down there can't go to supply to government. And so we established an initiative called Disability Enterprise Support Center when I was at KISE, and discovered that a lot of facilitation was needed, from getting a disability card, to walking to a bank, to registering a business because you can't supply as an individual, to having tax exemption. There were 7 things that they needed. And so we started walking a journey with young people and facilitating them, but a lot of blocks on the way, especially corruption, because kickbacks are expected. Now, when you ask for a kickback and you have nothing to give, then it means you'll never access this. So as a KISE board, we said we have to start from home. This policy has to first work at KISE. And so we did a lot of work in streamlining KISE's procurement so that 3%, actually we pushed it to 5% of KISE's procurement goes to persons with disabilities. So we have done a lot of these things. I worked with Safaricom Foundation to give scholarships to young people to train in vocational. And we pushed so that 9% of those that were getting scholarships were young people with disabilities and training in the 40 vet institutions. So as the leader of Zizi Afrique now, I know that where I am is a moment to create opportunity, and that's the call I'm making, and that wherever you are, just create opportunity. Right now, the country is starting a values-based education pilot in 80 schools across the country with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. So curriculum, again, how do we adapt? So we have pushed so that the 80 schools in 19 counties in Kenya that are doing this pilot, 16 of them are special schools. So there is opportunity everywhere, and I would like us now to have that as our posture. Wherever you are, speak to somebody about expanding opportunity, because it's not about some certain people that need to be included. It's about opening opportunity so that the ground is level and opportunities are accessible to everyone.
Thank you very much. So we started hearing about government, and certainly government and government adjacent organizations play an important role. There are research and service organizations that collaborate with government and engage in all kinds of activities and training and programs. We're going to change gears to a different model where the government is not part of the conversation very much, but rather private industry and education, universities in this case. We're going to go to Kate Sanka from Teach Access in the US to talk about a different model.
Thank you, Bruce. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. Loved all of the challenges that you were sharing, and I'm really pleased to be following John because something he said really resonates with the work that we do. And he said, what can you do from where you are? And that really speaks to the mission of our organization. So our organization is called Teach Access, and we are a nonprofit based in the US. But the work that we do is to support educators, mostly higher education, although we're very interested and are making steps towards secondary as well. But supporting those educators with training, with curricular materials that they can use to teach basic concepts of disability and accessibility to their students. We aren't only focused on students with disabilities, we're focused on all students. And I think that really speaks to what John said. Our goal is that students learn about these topics. They don't become experts, they might, but that's not our goal. Our goal really speaks to what Dr. Becky was saying of where are the students in the room? We should have them here in these conversations, because the idea is that they're going to go out and do work in whatever industry it may be. We aren't only focused in tech industries, we really are looking at a lot of different types of industries. And we're hearing from those industries, they're saying, we really want people who know a little bit about these topics. We can't find enough. There aren't enough recent graduates from universities and colleges who know at least something. And the idea here, again, they won't become experts. Again, they might. But the idea is that they're the ones at the table saying, this is a really cool website or a really cool app or a service that we're talking about here at this company. How do we make it accessible? So they can be the advocates at the table. They might know how to do some of it, but at the very least, they know that it needs to be done and that they can go and find the internal accessibility teams or connect with any of your organizations or others for those perspectives. And how we accomplish this, I know Bruce is coming to tap my shoulder. We are an NGO, a nonprofit organization, and like he said, we accomplish this through pure and genuine collaboration. And so we're here to collaborate. There's a few from our team who are here in the room, but we do this through collaboration with companies, industry, through universities and colleges, as well as, and crucially important, disability and accessibility organizations. We shouldn't be doing this work, and we wouldn't if we weren't ensuring that all of those voices were at the table. And so the idea is really broad awareness, broad knowledge, getting out of sort of these echo chambers, if you will, or where we're all bought in, we all want to do this. We're trying to reach those students and faculty who don't know about these topics and who aren't aware about this. And I will say everything we offer is free, no charge. So there was questions around money. Everything we have is free. You can go to our website. I will do a plug for that. It's teachaccess.org. You can find me after. I can give you that info again. But we have materials, we have training to help you start to teach and learn about these topics in your schools. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thanks, Kate, for bringing that perspective of supply and demand. And the demand is coming from the companies who are demanding knowledge. They're demanding that their employees have certain skills and knowledge. And the supply is coming from the universities. And Teach Access is mediating that and saying, we're going to help the teachers train the students so that they can supply the demand from the company. And the government, generally speaking, is not involved. This is a completely separate transaction, if you will, where the education system is providing what the business community wants and needs. So that's a fantastic additional perspective on this. All right, we're going to keep on going.
Yes, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Maria Omare, the Executive Director and founder of the Action Foundation. We are registered and based here in Kenya, headquartered in Nairobi, specifically in Kibera. So started 15 years ago when there were very limited opportunities for children who have a disability. When I was a student in KU, I'm so glad to see a lot of alumni in the room. And we have a life cycle approach, which means we work with children from when they're born till when they're youth, till about 35 years old. I'll focus on our work on education. We work in both health and education, but for this discussion, I'll just focus on education. We do a lot of work around direct service delivery, working with communities and families. We also do a lot of capacity strengthening, and in the past 5 years, we've been doing a lot of policy and advocacy to shift systems at community, county, and national levels when it comes to inclusive education for children and youth who have a disability. Back to the life cycle approach, when you are discussing the challenges, I really wrote down a bit of what we are doing to address the challenges. So for parental engagement, our work begins from when the children are really young. Actually, from when they're crawling to when they're about that age for school readiness, we advocate for home-based learning for children who have a disability. We have a home-based learning manual that we've been piloting for the past 3 years. We've worked a lot with KISE on that, as well as other state departments, including the Ministry of Education, to ensure that children with disabilities have the requisite skills for them to be ready to go to school. Thereafter, we ensure that they are enrolled in public ECE schools, as well as some UPBET. In Kenya, we say UPBET, alternative providers for basic education and training, which are like community schools, mostly in informal settlements, to ensure that children with disabilities are enrolled, and working a lot with teachers on teacher capacity development, providing resources. We leverage innovation. We use recycled wood to create accessible toys and learning materials. We leverage cardboard. We use appropriate paper-based technology to create seats for the learners to be able to be included in classrooms, and doing a lot of work around enhancing teacher capacity when it comes to working with learners who have a disability. So our work in IECE is now in multiple counties. We're in Machakos, Kajiado, and Nairobi, and looking to grow out to Samburu before the end of the year. And that is with a lot of support from the Ministry of Education in terms of technical support. We've also worked with Clinton Health Access Initiative. I know they're also in the panel to see how are we incorporating play-based learning in our teacher training. Now a child is in ICE. We know that there's a huge challenge when it comes to transition, where a lot of learners with disabilities spend a lot of time in special needs education or special SNE centers without transitioning to higher levels of learning, special units rather. So we've done a lot of work around ensuring transition. It could be providing the materials the child needs, supporting with school fees for some needy cases, but ultimately ensuring that there is actually transition. Our work at secondary and tertiary level is really heavy on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as well as digital literacy. We've done work with Google.org, Microsoft as well, to ensure that learners with disabilities in 25 counties in 35 schools have access to digital skills training, because a lot of learners are told that, or the perceived capacity is that they will end up in tailoring, in vocational, but we start them early by letting them know that they can be anything that they want to be. We've been doing this work for 4 years, and I'm really excited to share that a lot of our learners are actually doing courses that they would previously not have imagined. We have others doing computer science. We have the top female student in Garissa County was actually one of our alumni, and she wants to pursue IT. So people with disabilities need to have access to opportunities beyond what people tell them that they can do. So we've done a lot of STEM training in secondary and tertiary level. And right now, we've been working with Nigeria Digital to ensure that they're getting access to digital skills training and employment opportunities. On the systems change level, we've been involved in the different policies. When the sector policy for learners and trainees with disabilities was being developed, a lot of our parents were involved. That's in Kibera and in Dagoretti community, where because policies have to reflect the needs of the people on the ground. So we were part of that policy development, and right now we are working across different ministries to ensure that implementation is actually taking shape, and also working on the issue of data, because there is a limited, we spoke of money, at least 4 people spoke about money. But the huge challenge around funding allocation is because persons with disabilities are not counted. The data is extremely inaccurate. We've been disputing the past census for as long as and as loudly as we can. And when there is limited availability of the actual data, it means that services for persons with disabilities remain under-budgeted. So we've been doing a lot of work with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, as well as KISE and other state departments to ensure that we are having, reviewing the tools that are being developed collaboratively. And ultimately, we hope in the new census that is going to happen in the next few years, we'll have a bit of accurate data capture. Thank you.
Lots in there, and I'm creeping up on our speakers so that they moderate their own massive amounts of work. So this is great. So we see different models and different approaches at different levels, and we're going to keep going.
Thank you so much. Forgive me for my hoarse voice. It excites me to contribute to this discussion today, bearing in mind that education is a catalyst and a force for transforming lives and also dismantling stereotypes. My name is Ruth Mureithi. I work with Konza Technopolis Development Authority. Konza Technopolis is a state agency under the Ministry of Information, Communications and the Digital Economy in Kenya. So what do we do at Konza Technopolis, and who is Konza Technopolis, and why are we interested in this discussion today? So Konza Technopolis is a smart city, an area of innovation and a science park, so a platform that brings together government, industry, academia, and the society to work in the same space. And so as an area of innovation, my role in Konza is to nurture innovations and to accelerate startups, seeing ideas to commercialization and research outputs to commercialization. And one of the key thematic areas that we are very keen on is to nurture innovations and startups in assistive technologies. So we also have a program called G2Med Digital Enablement Program. This is towards digital inclusion, and we work very closely with partners. We have a working relationship with KISE under the Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy, UNESCO, Huawei, just to mention a few. And we provide devices. I had somebody talk about one of the challenges being access to devices and also internet connectivity, especially when you think about the rural settings. So we are working with partners to ensure that we connect schools that support the differently abled with internet, and also provide solutions, like we recently deployed devices in Machako School for the Deaf, and also provided video conferencing solutions so that then the learners can also be able to learn remotely and enjoy the services that the other students enjoy. So under the G2Med Digital Enablement Program, we are establishing 1,450 digital hubs across the country, a hub in every ward, to ensure that then digital inclusion is available. Beyond that, under the innovation pillar, we support innovators and startups through access to funding, so that, and also business development services, so that then they are able to push their solutions to the market. That's just to mention a few. Thank you.
Thank you, and there's so much more. Thank you for all of that. Two more.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nangandu Chizuka, but you can just call me Nana. I'm coming from Clinton Health Access Initiative in Rwanda. Our work is mainly focused on addressing what we have identified as barriers that lead to systematic exclusion of especially children from education. And we're focusing on the 0 to 6 to ensure that they are screened early, then there's early initiation of interventions, and also caretaker support which are the fundamentals of ensuring that children are actually school ready by the time they reach the school going age. So with that work, we're looking at building the capacity of healthcare providers, ECD mentors to actually be able to conduct screenings in those spaces. So basically, we've identified critical touch points for early screening and linking these children to the required interventions. And as we are all aware, when it comes to interventions in our low resource settings, it's very difficult to get these children into rehabilitation institutions. So we are seeing how can we leverage learning through play in the ECDs, creation of caretaker support groups that are in the communities where we can integrate play-based learning, where caretakers can support one another on how they should provide support for their children so that by the time they get to the age of 6, 7, they're able to get into school. And then when we talk about assistive technology, it's very easy for us to assume that immediately a child is identified with a disability, maybe they are 6 or 7, they'll be, if it's a wheelchair that they need, automatically they'll be able to get on the wheelchair. But we identified that there's a gap in terms of preparation of ATUs for children. So in the ECDs, in the caretaker support groups, we're using those spaces to prepare children for ATUs so that by the time they're getting to go to school, their AT needs have been identified and they've been prepared to actually utilize those devices so that they can successfully enroll into school and be integrated into the school system. So with the play-based learning, we've supported the National Child Development Agencies to integrate inclusion when in the play strategies, building capacity of the caregivers to be able to include children with disabilities. How can they come up with play sessions that are inclusive for all the children so that all the children who are enrolled in ECDs move at the same pace? And it also includes creating awareness among the caretakers, because most of the caretakers would rather keep their children inside the house. So we're encouraging them to enroll into the ECDs, looking at the different types of ECDs that they can go into. Their home-based ECDs, center-based ECDs. So once an assessment is done during screening, then an ECD is among the referrals that are given to these children. And then at national level, we are also looking at having a national database for persons with disabilities. And most of the time, these exclude children below the age of 5. But we've been, like in Rwanda, we've been able to achieve that, having data for children that are below the age of 5. So once they are registered, a limitation profile is generated, and anybody who looks into the system will be able to see, based on the age of the child, what are their needs. So if a child is 4 years old, they have a disability, they should be in an ECD. What are their assistive technology needs? What interventions are required? And then we've also gone into looking at how we can mobilize domestic resources to make assistive technology accessible. So this is more into looking at advocating and supporting governments to include assistive technology in the health insurance, so that this is not a barrier for many children, because most of the time, adults have more access to assistive products than the children who would rather be kept at home. So in order for us to achieve this equity, we need to go a step further to address the issue of resource limitations. Yeah. I think, this is mainly much of the work that we are doing, and I hope I've done justice in the limited amount of time that Bruce has given to us. Thank you.
Right, and remember that we had a scheduled 2-hour session that got compacted. So we started at the government and government adjacent and research and at the education and corporate and other services and connections. And we're going to wind up in the classroom with Conchita, who is on the ground and maybe can share some thoughts about that piece of the puzzle.
I'm Conchita. First of all, thank you so much for having us. This is my first time in Kenya, and it's an honor to be here with you all and to just be collaborating. Because I think sometimes when people come, they're like, what can we teach you, right? But rather, what can we do in collaboration? My follow-up is that we were actually at the Tika School for the Blind a couple days ago, and we brought something called Lego Braille Bricks. So it is a way to teach young blind students through play Braille, and the Lego Foundation created this specifically for blind children. In the United States, they're free and they don't even know how to get rid of them. So my follow-up with you and with the schools is going to be making that connection. Let's grab the ones that are there that they're not using, or even with the Lego Foundation themselves, and bring them here so that you all have access. So that will be my follow-up. Thank you. So I'm Dr. Conchita Hernandez. I always say only the people that I don't like have to call me doctor. And my area of research is around students with disabilities, specifically multilingual learners. And what I have found coming here is that all students here are multilingual learners, right? They speak multiple languages. Someone had mentioned as one of the areas of concern was bringing in the humanitarian aspect. So I would recommend that you look up something called disability justice. And disability justice is a step beyond disability rights. And it has 10 specific tenets. And these tenets are building together disability and social justice. So one of the tenets of disability justice is that initiatives, programs, and things that are really empowered should be led by people with disabilities, because we are the people that understand. And it doesn't mean if you don't have a disability, don't be in leadership. It means if you are in leadership and you don't have a disability, you need to be making a concerted effort to grow youth with disabilities so that they eventually take your place. So I would recommend looking into disability justice and how we support young people with disabilities to empower them. One thing that I've seen here a lot also is this real focus on tech and how do we get tech in the hands of our students. I'm gonna show a little bit of a different perspective. Tech is one of the areas. If we give tech to a student that is not empowered, it does nothing. So specifically in the blindness field, we have something called the expanded core curriculum. And it's a great curriculum that actually works across all disabilities. I'll say it again, expanded core curriculum. And what EXPANDED space CORE space CURRICULUM, I believe. And what it is, it's 9 areas that blind and low vision students need to know before they, right, so they can access their education, so they can access the employment, so they can access vocation. And AT is one of them, but it's only one of 9 areas. And so I think we need to be really careful about AT is not going to save people with disabilities. It is an ecosystem of support. So AT is one of them. Self-empowerment is a huge one. That's another one. Independent living skills is another one. So if our students don't know how to put on their clothing, how to mop their floor, how to cook a basic meal, how are they going to go live on their own? So I would highly recommend looking into these areas, and we do training on this. So if you are interested in, we have a lot of resources, a lot of training on this area that we can support you in. Another area that somebody mentioned was attitudes, right? That is the biggest barrier for employment, for inclusion, is society attitudes. Everywhere they are bad. Even in the United States, in the most tech hubs, people have really negative ideas on disabilities. What we did as an innovative program that was fun, it brought in the community, we hosted a huge carnival, and we did not call it for people with disabilities. We invited the whole community to come. So we said it's free food, it's games, it's balloons, it's jumpy houses, it's music, we're gonna have bands. And it was a trick because once we got the community there, then we had different booths around learn about sign language, let's learn about Braille, let's learn about people with developmental disabilities. And so this way that we incorporated the community, we brought them in, we did not tell them it was about disability. Once they got there, they were willing to learn and it was a fun environment. And one of the musicians had a disability, and one of the people that was doing the balloons had another thing. So it's these ways of including, if we are educating the student in a silo without their community, we're never going to get inclusion, we're never going to get that integration. So I'm happy to be a resource, come find me, happy to support you in how you can implement this within your communities, but it's so important that our families are involved, that our communities are involved, and we've done a lot of programming around getting the family to change their mentality, because that is a huge area. So with that, I will finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Conchita. And I think it's great to remember that it's a holistic, we're talking about education, but it's not just mathematics and history, it's how to adult, how to live, how to survive and thrive. And last but absolutely not least is Fifi. We're going to come to you for your thoughts. You want to share? There's a microphone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Refilo Hapesisinyi of Fifi. Fifi is the nickname. I come from the beautiful mountain kingdom of Lesotho. So from my end, I can say, okay, I have several heads that are on my head. But first, let me start with the work that I do with the Lesotho National Federation of the Organizations of the Disabled. So as the Federation in Lesotho, we do much of advocacy at the national level, and we have been doing much to advocate for the development of inclusive education policy, which was launched in 2019, as well as the domestication of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which was domesticated to Persons with Disability Equity Act of 2021. So besides that, the Federation also do much of research to try to understand what are some of the barriers that are hindering persons with disabilities to access inclusive education. And we were aware that around 54% of girls with disabilities drop out of school, and 41% of boys also drop out of school. And with that results that we received, we developed some of the programs that we can ensure that regardless of the challenges that they face, as communities, as the nation, we hold hands and ensure that they are not left behind. So among other things, we do have a program where we support and sensitize teachers on the inclusion of learners with disabilities. And we also train them on intersectionality so that they have an understanding of how different oppressive power structures perpetuates inequalities for learners with disabilities, considering their background, either being class, their gender, the parents' status, either being educational or their level of disability. And we also have a program where we develop inclusive education clubs in schools. There, we support learners with disabilities, and within the clubs, we also include other learners without disability, so that all learners have a picture of what inclusion is, and they are there to extend a helping hand to all learners so that they can all make it through within the education system. And the other program that we also have is we do have caregivers groups. There we empower caregivers on the rights of learners with disabilities so that they can support each other and hold each other accountable, as well as the schools accountable. But besides that, I have been in a position where I found myself having to work more within the assistive technology space within the State Library of Lesotho. So for so many years in Lesotho, learners, particularly in this case with visual impairment, even now is still a persistent problem, you find that there's no expertise to teach us on how to use different speech readers. And you find that in schools, they are not taught how to use computer, or even when they are taught, those who benefit more are those who are partially blind. So within the facility, what we do accommodate all learners and the entire community to teach them on how to use different speech readers and different assistive technologies so that they too can be empowered and they can have a picture of how is it like to access different opportunities, and we support them in accessing different opportunities that can help them access education and other global opportunities, so that we try to close the gap that has been created by the education system, which did not have proper resources or support for the learners with disabilities in Lesotho. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll say one other thing that I want to mention is that gaining access to the software and the tools is something that is always a challenge. Many of the assistive technologies are very expensive. However, with technology, many software tools are now available for free or for very little. And research groups such as my own at Georgia Tech, we are producing software to help make graphs and charts and equations accessible, to make maps accessible using audio, all for free. And so I think it's important to not lose hope and to recognize that there are lots of opportunities out there for affordable approaches. So technology doesn't have to be seen as an added expense, but with an investment of a little bit of money, for example, for a Chromebook or some computing platform or even a smartphone, we can use that to unlock all kinds of other additional resources. All right, so we had wanted to extend into a conversation, but we're not going to have time for that. But I hope that we've gotten to the point where you have heard things that resonate and that start to go towards the solutions to the challenges that we expressed at the beginning. So what I'd like to do to close us is to express that this is the beginning of the conversation or the continuation of the conversation, and Enable and the people that are at this conference and MasterCard Foundation and others are very interested in advancing this along. So we will make this information available, and there will be working groups. If this is something that you're interested in, expressing your concerns or helping to be part of the solutions, this work continues and you are all welcome. So in the spirit of that, I want to take us back to the very beginning where we were. We started with clenched fists, and then we heard some solutions, and the last thing to do is to bring us all together. So let's start with our hands clenched. Remember all of those challenges, but now raise and open your hands and think about all of those things that are up there that we can attain, and now shake the hands, grab the hands of your neighbors as we form a community and move this forward. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your work.